Stop me if you've heard this one before. Our protagonist hastily enters a darkened room. Suddenly, they are thrown into profound confusion due to the presence of dozens of mirrors, obfuscating their path and possibly hiding a threatening presence. Oh boy, here we go. I suspect you're familiar with this trope, even if you're not a cinephile.
Oh, Homer, where are you?
The appearance of the Hall of Mirrors in movies has moved beyond cliché and fallen entirely into self-referential pastiche at this point. I suspect one of the main drivers of this trope is the fact that it's a visually cinematic idea that suggests metaphorical depth, while also being an incredibly inexpensive set that, by its very nature, creates a scene with a unique visual identity. The biggest challenge to that, historically, would have been a fear of where to put the camera, but with movies like John Wick 2 and even this famous Spike Jonze commercial, filmmakers no longer need to be concerned with where to discreetly hide the camera and crew. Now they just break the backs of dozens of VFX guys who manually have to remove the reflections of camera and crew.
You're gonna have to paint out this stuff in 3D space.
Into infinity.
Halls of mirrors have shown up in movies throughout film history.
Then I saw the room, a queer, mirrored room, and somehow I was inside it. There was danger there.
But the quintessential Hall of Mirrors scene that continues to cascade through cinema today is, of course, Orson Welles' 1947 film, The Lady from Shanghai. It remains technically probably the most impressive, while also setting the visual standard for these sequences, and presents the most famous tropes. In particular, the multiplication of oneself, the mirrors as a labyrinth, and the more powerful character taunting a less powerful character with their inability to identify the quote-unquote real them for attack or escape.
These mirrors, it's difficult to tell. You are aiming at me, aren't you? I'm aiming at you, lover. Of course, killing you is killing myself.
It's often the villain taunting the protagonist with their inability to know which is a reflection and which is reality.
This game has cost me a lot.
You blew this maniac.
You just gotta know which one he is.
You never pick out the right one, Casey.
But occasionally it's the protagonist, if they're meant to be the one with the upper hand.
What a lot of nobodies. Reflections one and all, but in truth there's only one. Guess which is that son of a gun?
If indeed these halls of mirrors are so confounding, it doesn't really make any logical sense that the stalker would be able to navigate them without any effort, while the prey would bounce from mirror to mirror completely befuddled, firing upon random images rather than locating the sound of their voice and firing directly at that. Or, I would say even more damningly, simply looking toward the floor or ceiling to find the obvious edges of where the mirrors stop to guide their path to the exit, or to identify the true villain as opposed to their reflection. Not only has the Hall of Mirrors become an unfortunate cliché, it's predicated on the filmmaking cliché of mirrors as a visual motif that has become so tired, Charlie Kaufman has his fictional hack screenwriter brother brag about using it in the lame screenplay he's writing in the film adaptation.
Because of my multiple personality theme, I've chosen the motif of broken mirrors to show my protagonist's fragmented self.
It's a shame it's become so tired because at the peak of film formalism, the motif was utilized to great effect. Alfred Hitchcock, of course, was sort of the apex formalistic filmmaker, by which I mean he tried to invent and develop the unique tools of film as a form to enrich his storytelling, whether it be through camera moves, lighting shifts, editing, music, etc. 1960s Psycho is the clearest example of this, wherein he develops a system of recursive mirroring and doubling throughout. The protagonist Marion is shown in mirrors as she considers her duplicity in stealing the money. There's the virtuous side of her and the dark side of her, reinforced with, of all things, the color of her underwear, as her illicit plan to steal the money develops. The thematic center point of the movie is when Marion and Norman have a conversation wherein they realize they are both trapped in their circumstances, two unlikely mirrors interacting for one moment before famously, she is murdered and we swap from her story to his, so that the structure of the movie itself is two mirrored halves. And in the penultimate shot, their connection is sealed by having Norman adopt the death's head grin just as Marion did while driving away with the money. This visual Kubrick would famously utilize so frequently as to become known as the Kubrick stare, with like a literal Wikipedia article and everything. That little thief Kubrick. While Hitchcock's nesting dolls of formalistic mirroring motifs is cool to write essays about, that filmmaking style of attention-drawing visual symbolism has fallen out of favor as perhaps too clunky or overstated. So now, when a filmmaker proudly shows us a character looking at themselves in the mirror with the expectation that we, the audience, will lean forward in our chair and muse about the visual implication of doubling or identity or the masks we wear, there's maybe a little bit of an eye roll and collective groan at the worn-out heavy-handedness of the trope. Bonus points if they smash the mirror because they don't like what they see. And if that's clunky, how much more so now with the Hall of Mirrors? For one thing, it starts getting really silly trying to justify why anyone would ever be anywhere near a maze built out of mirrors, much less stumble into it. Imagine the poor screenwriter trying to explain why anyone being pursued would duck into a hall of mirrors to hide, wherein they are trapped, as opposed to, say, run anywhere else.
Come out, you old bastard! Come out!
I suspect this is the reason why the Hall of Mirrors trope in the 70s through the 90s showed up less in detective noirs and instead in slashers, usually vaguely mystical, wherein oblivious teens enter the Hall of Mirrors on their own volition. It also shows up in 2019's It Chapter 2.
Stop following me!
And that same year, Jordan Peele uses it in his movie Us, despite literally making fun of the trope in a famous Key and Peele skit.
You assume it's the real me.
Okay.
Mine.
That's the real you, all right.
Or maybe I'm over here.
No, you're not over there.
This sort of seems to be the final formulation of the Hall of Mirrors trope. Instead of a gunman who is unable to figure out which mirror to shoot, the Hall of Mirrors has become a liminal space with mystical potency, which can either manifest or defeat fantastical evil,
You will no longer be obedient!
depending on the screenwriter's desires. But as clunky and tired as the mirror motif has come, at least it's alluding to the duality of humans and the mirroring of cops and criminals visually, and not just, outright saying it. Now, what would that sound like?
You and I are not so different.
You and I are very much alike.
We're more alike than you know.
We are not so different, you and I.
Are we so different, you and I?
We're not so different, you and I.
We are not so different, you and I.
You and I are not so different.
We're not so different, you and I.
You're not so different, you and I.
We're not too different, you and I.
We're not so different, you and I. Yeah, duh.
We're not so different, you and I.
We aren't so different, you and I.
We're really not so different, you and I.
You and I, we're puppets on the same sick plane.
We're not so different.
No, we're not so different, you and I.
You and me, we're not so different.
You and I are not so different.
We're not so different.
We're no different, you and me.
We're not all that different, you and me.
We're not so different, you and me.
We're not so different, you and me.
We're not that different. Oh!
Maybe you and I aren't so different.
We're not so different.
We're not that different after all.
We're not so different after all.
You and me, we're not that different from each other.
We're not so different.
We're not as different as you, Sue. And in that way, we're not that
Different, you and I.
Maybe we're not so different after all. Maybe we're not so different after all.
We're not so different after all. We're not so different, you and I.
We're not so different.
You and I are not so different.
We're not that different, you and I.
Yes, we're not so different.
Remember when I told you we're not so different, you and I? We're not so different, you and I.